part of the conversation?
Well, we are now.
All right, so it's 6:27. Okay.
By the way, Sylvia, this is Richard Ash.
Hi.
Bear with us a few minutes.
Of course.
We're introducing ourselves to our new district manager, Michelle, and we might as well introduce ourselves to you as well.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay. Peter, do you want anything?
You want me to introduce myself?
Yeah.
Okay, my name is Peter Sampton. I'm a resident of the Upper West Side since 1969. I'm an architect. I had a large practice in the city for many years. Was the designer of Stuyvesant High School and the police headquarters, amongst other buildings. And in our part of the city, I did the Twin Towers at Broadway and between 87th and 88th Street, and also the subway station, the 72nd Street subway station. And I enjoy being on the board. I've been on the board for about 8 years and have another 2 years to go.
Thanks.
Thank you. That's an incredible journey. Thank you.
Yeah.
Melissa?
Well, we actually met last night at the housing.
All right, so we'll skip you. Roberta, have you met Michelle?
I have met Michelle.
Okay. How about Shelley?
Okay, so I'm Shelley Fine. I've been an Upper West Sider in the same building on 103rd and West End since 1971. This is my 50th anniversary.
Wow.
My wife is a lifelong West Sider, and she's 23 going on 24. That's what she says. I started my involvement with the community in two ways. One, I was chair of the school board when we had school boards, elected twice, and was the president of the West Side Jewish Community Council, which involved every denomination, every Jewish organization of every stripe. I was president of publicly elected to the area policy board, the neighborhood advisory board, the citywide community action board, and I can go on. I'm very bored. Okay. From when I was chair of the Community Board 7, 2005 to 2007, there were three major projects we did. One was the rezoning, the largest rezoning in the city, the rezoning of the Upper West Side, 97th, 110th between the river and the park. And that has held beautifully up until now. The purpose was to maintain the diversity, both of peoples in the community, economically, ethnically, racially, and to maintain the housing stock that was affordable and to keep the neighborhood a neighborhood. And it's been successful so far. The second thing was to undo a very bad shelter that was pushed on us and agreed to by elected officials, and then they reneged. We got it closed because it wasn't good for the people who were being brought in. It wasn't good for their neighbors in the building. It wasn't good for the community. So we did that. One reason I was able to push that was because I'm president of the West Side Federation for Senior and Supportive Housing. So no one was going to question my commitment to homelessness or affordable housing. And the commissioner realized that they weren't doing the right thing. And the third one was the creation of the community emergency response team on the West Side. And I, to this day, serve as the team chief. It's all volunteer. A fun fact, in 1986, when I was chair of the school board, I got a call from David Dinkins, of blessed memory, And invited me to his office at the borough president's office. He said, I need you to be on the community board. I said, oh no, that's a terrible place. I've been there. Who would want to go there? And I said, besides, I'm chair of the school board. He says, just for a year. And he told me why. I said, okay, for 1 year. And I said, when does that year end? Well, it's a 2-year term. I said, what if I can't do it past a year? Don't worry. And it's now been 35 years. So that's
Okay.
kind of a fun fact.
That's a fun fact.
Great. Louisa, have you introduced yourself through another committee or?
I did.
Oh, all right.
The only thing I would say is that I have lived here since on the Upper West Side since 1962, when my parents were very upset that I was moving into a slum. So
Oh, dear.
Ethel?
that has changed.
Thank you.
Ethel?
Oh, Sunday.
Yes, well, I spoke, so I think others heard the other night.
Okay.
And so I don't think I have to say anything. And
Hi, Ethel. Good to see you again.
hello.
All her great books. Yeah.
Yes, so I think many of you know me, and I've been around a long time and have learned a great deal from my time on the community board. The one thing I would say is it precipitated me when I had been teaching political science and done a whole bunch of other things, that I then took a national test just on my own to go become a planner and see what the hell I'll do it, and was certified to become a planner. It was because I got so interested in land use and in building a community, and that's as much as I need to say, since so many of you know me, and I don't want to go on very long.
Rich?
Thank you very much.
And I have a footnote,
Sure.
if I could. I was a classmate of Ethel's husband, Isaiah, at Stuyvesant High School. We graduated together.
Oh, gosh.
That's
Oh,
a
my
fun
God.
fact.
That was something I didn't know.
Yes,
And,
how
and
wonderful.
Peter, and Peter, we were neighbors, although we didn't know each other when we were growing up. We
Yeah.
lived on
I
the
have
same street.
I have a
Richard?
footnote too to Shelley's story. My first city job was working for Dinkins as borough president.
Oh, wow.
Okay,
Yeah, but it was a
Awesome.
long time.
how about that?
That's-
Rich?
You say me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I met Michelle at transportation, which
Okay.
admittedly is my
All right.
main interest. And I'm brand new to land use and really don't know much about it, but I'm learning.
Ira?
Thank you.
Where did Ira go?
I'm just visiting this committee today.
All right.
Um,
Oh, then you can't
but,
talk.
I'm on housing and education. I am a native Upper West Sider, though I did move south from 93rd to 92nd Street after a 12-year absence from the neighborhood. I've got a bunch of kids in school still, and I have worked with a number of people on this screen on projects before I got on the community board. So I would extend my thanks and to Shelley and to Ethel for that, and because of the which supportive housing, and Mark and I. Mark is the unofficial CEC member, and I'm the stand-in if Mark can't make it. So this year I haven't been standing in much,
Jeanette?
and I'm an architect professionally.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Okay.
Jeanette?
Well, I'll be quick because I think we should start our meeting. So
Yeah.
I studied undergraduate landscape architecture, but really got interested in planning, came back to the city, got a drafting job back before everything was on computers. Then I got the job at the borough president's office with David Dinkins, and got my degree from Columbia in city planning, worked for city planning, worked for EDC for over a decade, eventually becoming the SVP of Transportation and Waterfront Development. I worked on a lot of the early waterfront bikeways and parks like Stuyvesant Cove and West Harlem Piers and such. And then I took some time off. I got all but dissertation with my PhD while I was, raising my family and such. And then most recently, I did some teaching, and most recently I worked for 3 years at the Long Island City Partnership and Business Improvement District. So I bring a lot of knowledge, and I just like to sit and listen. I spent a lot of time presenting to other community boards, so I wanted to sort of participate in my own for a change. But I think we should probably start our meeting because it's after 6:30.
Well, we've introduced
Yes.
everybody but me.
Oh, well, Richard, go ahead.
Everybody knows you.
Well, I don't know. I've only been on a West Sider for 78 years. And I was appointed to the community board by Andrew Stein when he was borough president back in the 18th century. For most of that time, I've been a chair or co-chair of land use, which I don't practice. I'm a lawyer. I don't practice land use law. And when Larry Horowitz was my first co-chair, we used to kid each other. He was an architect, but I was more interested in the architecture and he was more interested in the legal aspects of zoning. Since then, I've had a number of co-chairs. Now, the brilliant and talented Jeanette Roche is a co-chair. And we're a very, in case you didn't know, Michelle, we're a very active committee. We're constantly on the lookout for issues. And, if something comes to your attention you could let Jeanette and me know, and we'll try to, either deal with it or work with you on it. But we're extremely active. Fun fact, I think, and let's see if anyone can see it here. I think I'm the last
Oh, wow.
member of the Community Board 7 softball team.
Wow.
And
Gotta start one up.
in honor of Michelle's ascendancy, I've worn for the first time in years my Community Board 7 T-shirt.
Nice.
That
Nice.
might be that might be a tradition we want to revive when we get around to it. But I agree with Jeanette. Let's start the meeting.
It's a fun fact.
Sylvia's been very patient.
Well, are we started?
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you. We just wanted to, on today's agenda, actually, Michelle, do you see city planning? I see, okay, we have Dylan here. Is there also?
Yeah,
somebody-
I think tonight it might just be me and Dylan, the two of us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. So just wanted to wrap up a couple things or give notice to a couple things. We just received from city planning notice of requirements for indoor privately owned public spaces. We're not really discussing that tonight, but we will distribute that. If I read it quickly, my understanding is that they're just going to reopen all of the POPs that as of July 1st for the full hours. They were closed temporarily because of COVID, and there still may be some restrictions related to where you can sit for maintaining like 6 foot difference. I also wanted to mention that 270 West 96th Street, the Fettner project in the mid block between Weston and Broadway on 96th Street, they were going to present today. That didn't work out. They're going to come to the next meeting. But two things on that project. One, DEC has approved their remedial action work plan, also known as the RAWP. And so they now submitted the document for public review. We will find a link and send that around. And the other thing is when they come next month, they'll talk a little bit about their meeting with DOT about the logistics with the bus stop in front of them and how they'll work with construction. And then the other thing is last month, we heard on the proposal for the first time of the Morningside Heights rezoning that Community Board 9, City Council, and Councilmember Levine's office was working on that involved a couple sites in Community Board 7. We'll look to discuss that sometime in the fall, but they have submitted some addressing some of the questions that were raised at the last meeting. And so we circulated that. So take a look at that for a future meeting in the fall so we can give our input before it comes to certification or anything like that. Any other notice? Oh, the other thing is the district needs, but anything else, Richard, follow-ups?
Ethel,
We're not-
Ethel?
Can I
Yeah, we're
just make
not-
one addendum to what you stated, just on previously, the so-called the rezoning coming from Board 9, of which there was a presentation. The likelihood of anything occurring in the next year is very low, because it's not going. They don't have any money for the EIS, and there is an election and a brand new city planning. And they are eager to make it happen. It's a community effort, but the likelihood in the next 6 months, 9 months, 11 months is low.
I totally agree with you, Ethel, there, but that's why we put it off to the fall. But I do think it's worthy for us to discuss it prior to anything happening. The earlier we have input, the better in things like this. So we will discuss it in the fall, but Ethel is right. It probably will not be, sped up because they don't have the funds yet to do the environmental review. So the district needs, was there anything, Richard, before we got?
I think we should get to the ULURP items before district
Why don't we
needs,
do that?
because, we have visitors.
Right. So,
You want to start with the hotel?
well, do we have anybody from the 2523 Broadway doing business as New York Sports Club? Jesse had submitted that.
I think Mr. Becker, who is in the attendees, is here for that.
Can you promote him?
Yeah, if you could promote him.
Mr. Becker, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, so if you wanted to
I
give
don't know
a,
why you can't see me, but anyway,
yeah,
I'm sitting here, so.
all right. If you wanted to give us a 2-minute synopsis, we know these are pretty straightforward.
Yes, this is here we go. Here we go. This is an application for an extension of term of a previously granted special permit to allow the operation of this physical culture establishment at the premises 2523, 2525 Broadway, the old Symphony Space building or the new Symphony Space building. We were granted 10 years ago. This is a renewal. As some of you may know, as Dylan is online, the special permit is being phased out potentially, but we filed because it has not yet been phased out and we are timely up for renewal. We are not making changes to the facility and we request your support. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor of the renewal, you can vote electronically if you can. 1, 2, 3. What? Things bouncing around. 1, 2, 3, 4.
You've got 9 raised, 9
9.
yellow hands or.
Okay, anybody voting digitally or manually?
Louisa.
All right, 9, 10. Anyone opposed? Lower your hand if you. 0 abstaining. Abstaining for cause,
I
0,
think
0.
I'm conflicted.
I'm sorry?
I think I'm ineligible.
Okay, so 10, 0, 0, 1.
Not so shabby.
All right, non-committee board members.
Hi, Christina. How are you? I'm good. How are you doing?
Somebody needs to mute.
I'm sorry? Oh,
Someone needs to mute Roberta.
all right, so we have, I see 3. Any
I've
more?
got 5.
5? All right.
Wait, sorry, I misread it. Can you, I'm not ineligible. I'm sorry.
I got
Okay.
Paul Fisher in, so it's 6. 6 non-committee.
All right. Anyone opposed non-committee? Anyone opposed? Abstentions? Ineligible. All right, we'll get Melissa, we'll add you to the voting for.
Yes, thank you. That's what I was going to say.
Okay. All right, Fred,
Thank
I
you
don't
very
know.
much, everybody.
This
Have
may
a
be-
safe and
this may be
healthy
the
summer.
last time we see you in this capacity.
Potentially, yes. But thank you for a good run. And
Okay.
again, a safe and healthy summer to everybody.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Thank you.
Good night. Take care.
All right. We have 2 ULIP items. I guess we could take the easy one first, which is the proposal to do away with special permits for physical culture establishments. Is anyone, Dylan or Sylvia, do you want to say anything about this?
So I want to introduce Dylan Sandler, who is the project manager for the citywide text amendment on health and fitness text amendment, and he can do a quick presentation if that's helpful.
Yeah, I think it is, except bear in mind, I think that you're preaching to a choir here, so.
Okay.
You're ready to vote.
Yeah.
Well, I will keep it very brief. Again, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to join. So I'm just going to share my screen and just walk through a couple of slides. So as you know, this is really a proposal trying to cut red tape for businesses that provide health-related amenities to communities. This has been something that our agency has been advancing in certain neighborhood rezonings for a while, and now this is a citywide proposal to remove this special permit for gyms, spas, and licensed massage. The kinds of businesses that are affected by this, of course, include things like the New York Sports Club that we just saw, and other chains. It also includes studios that exist around the city, so things like martial arts, cycling studios, yoga, Pilates, and it also includes health and wellness facilities, so things like spas and licensed massage. So currently there's a Board of Standards and Appeals special permit that exists to open almost every health and fitness facility in the city. And this was created in the 1970s, really directly to address concerns about commercial sex that was occurring, mostly within businesses calling themselves massage or health clubs, primarily in and around Times Square. So it was kind of a novel use of zoning to try to regulate this. And it was also at a time when the commercial gyms that we are all now very familiar with didn't really exist. So there were some health, YMCAs and other nonprofits and community centers, but the range of commercial gyms and fitness facilities was really pretty nascent at that point, and was just not anticipated that there would be all of these very legitimate businesses that would get caught up in this special permit. So there's been a lot of growth in that industry, a lot of demand for those kinds of services. And there's also been change related to massage therapy. So massage therapists are now licensed by the New York State Education Department, and there is a registry of all massage therapists that is available to the public online. The special permit process is pretty onerous for businesses. Typically, it takes about 6 or 7 months to go through the process. It costs businesses somewhere in the range of $30,000 to $50,000. for the larger chains that, you know, it's a lot, but it is affordable. You know, it is possible to spend that kind of money. For smaller businesses and independent facilities, it can really be prohibitive and keep out those kinds of smaller players. It also limits the locations where these facilities can be. So the special permit is not allowed in most C1 districts. So local retail streets that allow other things like drugstores and restaurants, in many cases don't allow gyms. And then finally, we, you know, at a time when vacancy rates are fairly high in some areas, we want to make sure that we're not being inflexible with zoning and that we allow businesses to occupy these spaces. There's a lot on this slide, but to summarize, the proposal is that we would remove this BSA special permit across the city, and in its place, we would treat gyms and spas as commercial uses. There would be a slight distinction between smaller gyms that are under 10,000 square feet. Those would be allowed in any commercial and manufacturing district. And then the larger gyms that are unlimited in size, so those that are larger than 10,000 square feet, would be allowed in higher density C1 districts and other commercial districts and manufacturing districts. For Community Board 7, for the most part, this means that all commercial districts can have gyms and spas of any size, except there are a few C15 districts, I think, in the northern C15 overlays in the northern portion of the district, where gyms may be limited to 10,000 square feet in floor area. And then massage therapy, we would be treating like other licensed health professionals. So these would be ambulatory healthcare facilities or healthcare offices. So we would treat them the same in zoning as physical therapists or dentist offices or psychiatry or other health and medical uses. And then we also have made it very clear that unlicensed massage is not a permitted use in zoning anywhere in New York City. So we've maintained a prohibition on massage therapy that are not licensed massage therapists. And then finally, when the BSA reviews and approves applications for gyms, they occasionally impose conditions related to noise and vibration, and in particular trying to be responsive to community boards. They're occasionally design interventions that try to reduce the impacts on neighboring uses. So we have created a noise performance standard that will be in the zoning. So businesses gyms that are in mixed use buildings in commercial districts or mixed use districts will need to demonstrate to the Department of Buildings that they are meeting these performance standards before they're issued a certificate of occupancy. So this would apply to higher impact things that have weights and exercise equipment, but low impact facilities like yoga and youth martial arts and spas would not have to go through this extra step. So I will pause there and I'm happy to answer any questions or go into further detail that would be helpful to the board.
Any questions?
I actually have one question. It's partly related. I'm just curious, with the gyms being treated similar to like saloons and with sort of marijuana being legalized and that coming forward, how does city planning see approaching the uses or accessory uses of, you know, a lot of now some of these gyms are also a cafe or such. I just want, it feels like it's a gray area. And I'm just wondering if there's anything that you've been working on related to that. Yeah.
So there aren't specific things written into the zoning about what is and is not an appropriate accessory use to gyms. I think some of the things that we know, things like showers, we've discussed with the Department of Buildings, and we think that absolutely is a common thing that occurs in gyms, and we think is appropriate. And similarly, something like a juice bar, those exist in gyms around the city, and I don't think we would have any expectation that those would not be permitted uses in gyms and spas. Something like you alluded to marijuana dispensaries. I mean, that I think there will probably be additional regulations. I think that those regulations have not yet been written yet about what the licensing and permitting process is for dispensaries. I anticipate that will be something where there will be, both city and state oversight of where those facilities can be. So I wouldn't imagine that this would permit in any kind of as of right framework marijuana dispensaries, within a gym. I think it really, as far as we understand it, it would be more the kind of traditional things that exist. So potentially something like a cafe, or a juice bar or showers and things like that.
Ethel?
Yeah, just what is the anticipated time of approval of this amendment? And then upon it obtaining approval, as I assume it will, what can you tell us about implementing the enforcement, and will there be a particular time that you have about that? The last thing is a comment, and that is I, for one, very much appreciated your summary of this. I think we've had these individual applications, and I found this very complete and very worthwhile, and I just want to thank you for that. So the questions.
Thank you very much. In terms of timing, this went to the City Planning Commission May 19th, and it was referred out for 60 days. So community boards and borough boards and borough presidents have until July 27th to submit comments and recommendations. And then we expect it to go back to the City Planning Commission for a citywide hearing. And our expectation is that it would be voted on and approved by the City Council around November of this year. So at that point, it would go into effect, and the special permit would be eliminated. The way it is drafted right now, for businesses that have an existing special permit from the Board of Standards and Appeals, they could continue to operate under their special permit. So they wouldn't need to go and do anything additional unless they are sort of modifying their space. So if they are expanding or making a significant change, then they would have the ability to relinquish their special permit and go to the Department of Buildings to update their certificate of occupancy under these new rules. So the new proposal would go into effect in November or sometime sort of late fall, early winter. But there wouldn't be a need for existing businesses to do anything at that time to comply.
Thank you.
If a business, if a permit expires between now and November, what is the owner to do? Can he just continue operating?
I think technically this, it would not be, nothing would change until it is approved by the City Council. So technically, if a permit expired before that happened, they should go back to the Board of Standards and Appeals for a renewal. Obviously, it would be up to the business to decide what makes sense for them, but that would be the rule.
Okay. All right, everybody ready to vote? All those in favor?
You have a few hands.
Doug, are you voting or are you?
No, I'd like to just say something if I may.
Sure.
I just want to say what a breath of fresh air that this new change is. I can tell you for years, I am asked, what can we do about vacancy? And while this is not a complete answer to that problem at all, it is a piece. And I can tell you quite a number of spaces within our district that if it wasn't for this requirement, these spaces would be filled because the landlords that own these buildings are small mom and pop landlords, could not go through the timely and expensive process. And the smaller boutique fitness companies that wanted the space also could not afford the time or the money to do it. This is a wonderful thing. I think it's going to help. It's not going to solve all problems with regard to vacancy, but it's certainly a step in the right direction. I fully support it. Thank you.
Thanks, Lou. Mark, do you want to, or are you voting?
You've got Michelle first, and then I'll go.
All right.
Thank you, Richard and Mark. I just had a question. This is a phenomenal opportunity to support small businesses, and I concur with everyone. My question is, with the special permit, if, it's voted down and the new regulation, happens, does that impact insurance? So for example, gyms and salons, these spaces are a form of providing some type of health service or health wellness. And so with the removal of the permit, do those types of regulations, they don't lessen? So that's kind of my question, if you understand what I'm asking.
I don't think it would impact.
Okay.
I don't think it would impact insurance or other kinds of like health code or fire code or other kinds of regulations outside of zoning.
Thank you.
Mark?
Thanks. I'm curious. I support the concept as well. In fact, if you increased it to 20,000 square feet, I'd be even happier because that would cover more of the Upper West Side without any of these, even the minimal regulation. But I'm curious about the definition of what you described in your slide as high impact. And I'm thinking about the CrossFit place that our board had an issue with on 67th Street in Columbus about well, it seems like yesterday, so probably 5 years ago, it was, there were neighbors upstairs who felt the vibrations and so forth, even though it was in a sub-basement. And I'm wondering, since there is noise abatement required for those businesses, what's the definition of high impact, and will it be obvious to an applicant to the Department of Buildings for one of Doug's clients?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I guess just to first give a little bit of context, in developing this, we initially worked with the BSA, who has permitted these for years and has a lot of experience in this. And then we actually put together a committee of about 4 acoustical engineers that have really worked with gyms in New York and sort of know these issues. And they basically recommended a standard to us. It is written so that any gym that has significant free weights or weights or exercise equipment would fall into that high intensity category and would have to provide documentation. So a CrossFit certainly would be in that category. And I think we will probably put more descriptive information in the City Planning Commission report that we draft. But I think at some level we acknowledge that the industry changes over time. And so if we said, bar classes are low impact, but CrossFit is high impact, in 5 years, there would be a new thing that wouldn't be either of those. And so we tried to sort of have it based on the equipment and machinery. But CrossFit certainly is high intensity.
Thanks, Mark. Any other questions? All those in favor of the text change?
I see 9. Louisa wanted to vote yes, but she left the meeting. So I think you probably should go with 9.
9.
Wait,
Opposed?
I had 9 and now I've got 8.
Well, okay.
There are
Peter,
8
you're
virtual hands.
Yeah, okay.
opposed? Paige, are you opposed? Oh.
For hands.
Sorry, Paige, you're muted, so I didn't hear.
I voted in favor.
Okay. Anyone voting against? Anyone abstaining? Anyone ineligible? So it's 9-0-0-0. Peter, I don't know that your vote was recorded.
Yeah, it was.
Was it? All right.
I voted.
Okay. Very good. Thank you very much.
Wait,
second
you didn't get
what-
Non-committee board members.
non-committee, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4,
You got 5.
5. All right. All those opposed, non-committee.
Ri-
Yeah. Abstain. Ineligible.
Richard,
Yeah.
I counted 10 committee members voting yes if we include Louisa?
I don't think we can include Louisa.
Oh,
wasn't
okay,
present.
Not here.
She wasn't
Okay.
present.
She can vote at the full board.
okay.
It's not that close.
All right, Dylan, I want to echo what Ethel said. It was a very good and terse presentation.
Thank you
So
very
thank
much.
you very much.
Dylan, can you email that to Michelle? The presentation might be useful at full board.
Sure, absolutely.
Could you also send it to me and also Jeanette?
Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, the next ULURP item is a requirement for special permit for hotels. Sylvia, who's handling that?
I think Nabila did a presentation at the
Right,
last
she did.
meeting.
Yep.
Right. So yeah, so I'm just here.
You're
in
just
case-
here to answer
yeah,
questions? All
Yeah,
right.
I'll try my best.
Okay, comments?
So I'll ask a question. I know that city planning did a whole hotel study a couple years back. And out of that hotel study, I never saw the final study, but out of it, they decided that there should be permits for hotels going up in manufacturing zones because they were going up as of right and they were displacing businesses and such. Was there something that came out of that hotel study that leads to now saying that we should have more hotels do permits?
So thanks for the question. And again, I am not the project manager for this project, so I'm going to try my best to provide a little bit of color based on what I know, and I can certainly follow up. So the M1 hotel special permit proposal and the study that was done was, kind of to help us understand the impact of hotels to M1 districts, and that my understanding is that study was done specifically to look at manufacturing districts. And here, I think we're looking at a wider, set of districts and wider set of areas across the city. But I'll say that the idea of requiring site-specific review of hotels beyond just the M1 districts have been in discussion for many years. I'll look into additional studies citywide, but as part of the, DEIS, the need and for this proposal has been, kind of studied and shared.
Thank you. I'm just trying to get a better understanding of what prompted the need to broaden the need for the special permits. And if it's specific to the hotel use, and the comings and goings of patrons, or, I'm not sure that was made particularly clear at our last presentation.
I think the special permit is really intended to kind of establish a citywide approach to hotel development. It doesn't say, hotels are categorically inappropriate and in any location, but, but that local communities and hotel developments themselves may benefit from a more thoughtful approach through, public review processes. So considerations may include, land use conflicts or, conflicts such as access and egress and pedestrian traffic and noise and land use characters like that.
Sylvia, we should know this, and maybe we discussed it last month. What is the practical impact of this in the Community Board 7 area? I understand. I mean, it looks like it only applies in commercial and manufacturing districts. I looked at that map. I couldn't read it.
I actually have, I think in the presentation, let me try to share my screen. There is a map that is
Yeah,
specific
I just couldn't read
to-
it.
Oh, this one. Okay, you have
That
it.
was the map that was in the presentation. but,
Right.
Um,
We can share, I can try to send you a more zoomed in map, but looks like it's along the commercial districts along the major corridors here. So Broadway, Amsterdam, and Columbus. This really would apply to existing districts that currently allows hotels as a right. So after the proposal, a special permit would be required.
That's true even in mixed use areas.
I believe so. So currently, through through the M1 hotel special permit text amendment a few years back, certain M districts already have this special permit, and then certain special districts themselves have various kinds of hotel special permits, and this would I think MX districts, paired manufacturing and residential districts and mixed use districts that currently allow hotel uses would be subject to the new hotel special permit. And Dylan, I know you are familiar with the proposal to a certain extent, so if I misspeak in any way, please feel free to chime in.
My reaction to all this is that we just got rid of one special permit in order to improve the city's economy. And I don't see the benefit. Some of the illustrations that were presented to us last month in your slideshow deal more with the physical aspects of the buildings, which can be dealt with in using other zoning tools other than a special permit. And I don't see the need for it, particularly in the Community Board 7 area.
Melissa, you have a question?
Yeah, I guess it's kind of piggybacking on what's already been asked, but like, I don't really understand the planning justification for this. And it, like you pointed out for the manufacturing zones, it was to prevent displacement of manufacturing. But when the DEIS identified an impact on tourism, and then, identifies some mitigation measures. So I don't quite understand, like planning wise, why this is something that should be pursued if has a negative impact that has to be mitigated. And yeah, I guess I don't understand the policy behind it. So I don't know if it's more of a statement or an answerable question, but I don't know if DCP has a response.
Yeah, no, I think these are really good points, and that's what we've been hearing in across the city in many boards. What I will say is, there's no question there are trade-offs inherent in this proposal, and I think the ULURP process is where we're taking in these very helpful comments.
Great.
Sylvia, perhaps you could tell us what the criteria is for granting a special permit. Will explain better sort of what city planning is looking for in guiding their growth.
Right. So I think this may have been covered last time in the presentation as well. So as part of the hotel special permit, the specific finding is sort of a pretty broad, flexible language that says, in order to grant a hotel special permit, the City Planning Commission shall find that such use will not impair the future use or development of the surrounding area. And so that, it's sort of a character finding, and it's a holistic finding that is common in some CPC special permits. I think a way to think about it is perhaps, a hotel that introduces conflicts with adjacent uses that cannot be addressed through, reasonable changes to the site plan and configuration of uses on the zoning a lot might not meet the finding, right? So, special permits, as you all are probably very familiar with, is a kind of site plan approval on the zoning law. So looking at how the hotel use interacts with the sidewalk and adjacent uses is sort of the way the community boards and ULURP participants and including the commission will evaluate the finding and the proposal. It's a site-specific determination, of course.
Do you have any examples of where this special permit would have prevented something that did adversely affect the community? Where a hotel went up and it was bad for the community, and that this is what you're trying to avoid happening again? Is there anything like that?
I don't know any examples of the top of my head. Maybe when they were prevented, we don't see them. I would say that, I can see if I can find more examples, but, in general, I think the idea is to introduce a public review, element to hotel development. So there is an opportunity for discussion.
Okay. Any further comments? Paige?
Paige?
You have to unmute, Paige.
Yes, I did. Just a simple question. My concern about a citywide action like this, we're already having pressure in terms of low-income housing and schools and some of our educational and cultural institutions. And my concern would be this could compete for that because some of our residential areas are nice and quiet. And I don't understand why we need somebody needs to explain to me basically why we need an overall one size fits all approval process when I think it should be based on the need and how it fits into the different communities. Maybe somebody could educate me on that.
Sylvia or Dylan?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd be happy. I mean, I think that in many ways, this proposal is doing what you're advocating for. So it is not limiting the areas where a hotel could be allowed from what exists today. It is just providing for more site by neighborhood by neighborhood and site by site review to see that it is compatible with the surrounding area. So this proposal does actually sort of impose that level of, by providing a pretty broad and, a pretty broad finding to the special permit, it gives some latitude to communities to determine whether a hotel is appropriate in a given location rather than an as of right framework that sort of removes that level of review.
Would this apply to conversion of buildings that are not now hotels into hotels?
Right. It's the conversion of existing buildings to hotel, the new hotel use would be subject to the special permit as well.
So I would like to make a suggestion to the community board fellow members. In my view, I don't feel like enough of a justification and argument has been made as to why it's important to do this at this time. And I feel that the specific finding is too broad to really give comfort as to why we're doing it. It seems that the logistical operation and the fact that it's dealing with the transient community will have some specific impacts, but those aren't necessarily addressed in the broad finding. I also fear that this will have a negative impact on tourism and hotel development in the city. And while tourism is a double-edged sword, I think it's nice to get the economic revenues from tourists, even if it's not nice to bump into them at Times Square if you're going through the subway. And so I also fear that if there's fewer hotels and and the hotel prices are higher, because we just said it costs $50,000 at least to get a special permit for a gym. I'm sure it's much more for a hotel. Hotel rooms will be higher, which will encourage more illegal Airbnb. And, you know, frankly, I don't see any benefits that this should be approved at this time with the information we have. That's my sense. And I'm curious to hear what other people think.
Mark? Mark?
Thanks. I think I was having the same thought that Jeanette was, but in a slightly different direction, which is the plague of SROs and other affordable housing uses on the Upper West Side that were turned into illegal hotels. Is this another weapon in the quiver to prevent that, or do we already have enough protections against those kinds of illegal uses that this wouldn't really meaningfully add to that arsenal? Because creating a barrier to entry for an illegal use of a Class A building to as an illegal hotel would be a good thing from a policy standpoint. But maybe to Jeanette's point, maybe it's not the right tool for that job. That is a question, not a statement.
Ethel?
Just very quickly, Mark, SROs are in fact regulated and have become legal under legislation some years ago. And there's a certain concern now about the need for affordable housing. And there's some considerable talk about the value of SROs for a number of populations. So I'm just correcting that particular assertion, not disagreeing with your concern.
Where does that leave us, Ethel? Is it already, are there already tools to regulate illegal hotels?
I know a lot about this, so I don't feel I'm up to date. I think that there are, but that doesn't mean that some of the points made, and I think several of them by Jeanette and others, are worthy of consideration. I'm becoming a little bit confused now about the merits of this, so I'm not sure.
Shelley?
I didn't like the law. The only one I know who ever opposed it, but tourist hotels were knocked down on the West Side and elsewhere by setting requirements of not having people there for more than 29 days. And then finally that these SROs and similar can't be used for as tourist hotels. When it first happened, unfortunately, I spoke to local mom and pop type businesses who said they lost 40 to 60% of their income because these people use their services. But nevertheless, it is law. It is state law. It was strongly supported by our local officials. So I think we have the protection on this currently exists. And I don't see the great value in this business we're talking about now, this proposal. It just doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah, I want to agree with Jeanette, and Mark echoed it as well, but I think the harder we make it for legal hotels, the more tempting we make it for illegal hotels.
Good point. All right, are people ready to vote? Can I suggest, unless anyone objects, that the vote is to disapprove? Does that meet with people's approval? Okay. So a vote yes is a vote to disapprove. All those in favor? Six. Oh, wait, I forgot me. 8. All right. All those opposed to disapproval?
Sorry, disapprove, you have to vote again. I lowered hands.
Anyone disapprove? Shelley?
This is to disapprove the resolution, which is to disapprove.
Right. Abstentions? One. See, one abstention. Ineligible?
Nobody.
None. So the resolution, I hope somebody's making the notes of these.
First,
Yeah.
Richard, non-committee members?
Oh, I'm sorry. Non-committee, which is different from non-committal. 4. Opposed? Non-committee? 0. Abstaining? 0. Ineligible? Good. All right, well,
I was trying
yeah.
to take notes, and we had 8 approvals of committee members, 1 against and 1 abstain.
I don't think we had any against.
Oh, okay.
This one, it was 8000.
Yep.
Okay.
No, it was 8010.
0, yeah. Because we have 9 people.
Yep. All right, well, Dylan and Sylvia, thanks very much. I would suggest that city planning note which community boards don't want this and maybe tailor it geographically to the community boards where they feel it's an issue and they can use it.
Yeah, I thank you. And thank you all for your very thoughtful discussions, really, helpful. And I would just encourage you, I know that you've just voted to support a resolution to disapprove the project. I think it will be really helpful to include some of the suggestions and concerns that you actually have about the proposal. I think that will be really helpful for the commission.
We generally do.
Thank you all.
Thank
Good
you.
night. Thanks, Dylan.
Thank you.
All right, I think we are up to our community needs statement discussion.
Yes, I just have a question. Rich, did you or Mark get the name of the speaker for the first item for the notes? Because I did not write down that name.
Me for the
before
gym?
It's Fred Becker, BECKER.
Frederick Becker.
Okay. Thank you.
He was the attorney for the applicant.
Okay.
It was Frederick.
Frederick, okay. All right, district needs.
Roberta, why don't you kind of moderate this part of it? And,
Okay, so the concern this year, the district needs has always been part of land use and preservation. And the concern this year is because of COVID-19, the pandemic, et cetera, that we need to look at, are there things that are being impacted, either money's not being spent for city planning or budget items, et cetera. Normally, land use doesn't have many budget items. So you're usually not, on the horse trading of budget items, but your district needs usually have been pretty much the same year to year. I don't think there's going to be a great deal of change, but you may want to look at some things that you haven't looked at because of the pandemic.
Could you, do you have that somewhere? Can you circulate that?
It's on the website. It's on
Okay.
the website.
All right.
And, I'm glad to work with whoever wants to work with me on it. We just want to do it a little bit earlier this year. Michelle is going to take an active role in going to the agencies and talking with them. I don't think that city planning's budget has been cut this year, so I don't think that's a problem. And, basically, I don't think because of the pandemic, there's that much change to land use issues. Our primary issue has always been NYCHA housing, which is not basically a land use issue, but it may become one because the NYCHA may be more interested in selling off some of its air rights, which I think will become a land use issue. Where will the air rights be? There was talk about the air rights being within the CD, but there were also talks of it being without, external to the CD.
Paige?
Two things came up. I agree with Roberta, but we do have one new intervention, which I think most people like. And I don't know if it falls under land use or transportation, but that's the temporary street enclosures, which frankly I like. I mean, it slows the traffic down. People stop.
I think that's, Paige, I think that's mostly transportation.
Is that transportation? And also the other thing is road safety and garbage, because I know that during the pandemic, our street, Peter has been our champion about following up.
That will be both transportation and sanitation.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
By the way, Paige, next month, we're going to be taking up another city planning initiative to kind of make permanent some of the regulations about the street sheds.
Oh, great. Okay. All right. Thanks.
Actually, Paige brings up the 2 points that I was going to bring up as well. And I do think that land use has, this is the main thing that has changed because of the pandemic related to how our land is used, and our land includes the sidewalks and the streets and everything, is how the restaurants have expanded in stores. And while I don't think that's necessarily a negative thing, I think it's going to have huge impacts. And DOT does not have the capability of monitoring it throughout the city. I've worked very closely with DOT on street permits, on outdoor seating in Long Island City and other communities, and they're very short-staffed. And so, if we're talking about funding, I would like to see funding go into maybe it's city planning with DOT or something, but I definitely would like to see more money thrown into that to regulate it. Some of them are very nice. Some of them are very unsafe. And also a lot of them are protected by DOT's sort of flimsy rubber barriers or such. So I do think that it isn't like our district needs to just present this, oh, we have a transportation item for this. I think this is one of the broader issues that covers all our committees in a way, but especially land use.
Jeanette, that's really important. And I think, because we are looking at things a little bit differently this year, it's very important for everybody, whether you're on a land use committee or transportation committee or, parks and environment, to look at things and outline them. And we've got to really focus on what we need for our community, and having businesses, local businesses, be able to stay in business is crucial. I think Seema has her hand up.
Seema.
Yeah, building on that point that Jeanette just made, I'm also concerned that, DOT is on the hook for a lot of our streetscape issues, because we have, the expansion of, all of these cafes, which is wonderful. And it's a real testament to the flexibility of the city to support small businesses. However, we have that going on. We have a street vendor issue, which is coming up and sort of more BCI related, but will probably also fall under DOT in some way. They have absolutely no ability to sort of enforce or monitor that. And then just generally our, safety issues about bike lanes and how they conflict with the, cafes and all this stuff. I just feel like there's a whole lot going on, but not a whole lot of thought over like holistically how this all fits together. And I'm concerned about that.
So I think we'll have a chance next month to go into that in great detail, because we're going to be faced with a ULURP issue.
Two things about we have two things going. So one is the budget priorities. And I think, normally land use doesn't have budget priorities, but you certainly could have them this year. And the second thing is our DNS. Our DNS is really a map. It should be a blueprint for what we want our community to be doing. And so I think it's very important that we, normally our DNS is basically the same year after year after year. But I think, if it's a blueprint, we ought to really look to see how we want the blueprint to go forward.
Can I ask everybody between now and the July meeting, look on the website at DNS. And if you have additions or subtractions or comments, just email everybody with them, and we can accumulate them and discuss them in July.
Richard, could you also send out
if you could look at some of the other community boards in Manhattan and see what their district needs were last year, it gives you a different perspective.
Right. Good idea. I just wanted to comment on Jeanette's point, which, as I understand it, is money for enforcement of regulations relating to cafes. The problem I see with that is that we have had issues throughout the years with respect to lack of enforcement of just about everything.
Yep.
And I'm not sure I would single out cafes as the most important issue. But it's something that we need to look at and see if we can, kind of craft some kind of position on enforcement generally, and then maybe with specific examples. Paige?
No, Rich Robbins had his hand up.
All right.
Thank you. I agree with Seema. It's mostly a transportation issue. I think it's also a BCI issue, but I'm really concerned that DOT is put on enforcement and oversight of the outdoor dining, and people are saying they don't have the capacity to do that. I'm a huge fan of two things. One is outdoor dining, and everyone knows I'm a huge fan of the protected bike lanes. But the idea that we currently have vehicle lanes running essentially through restaurants will cause fatalities very soon. And I sent an email to the chairs of transportation and BCI recently that we need to do a joint meeting and address this issue very quickly, because there will be fatalities. And to the extent that, it's ironic for land use to call for, as a budget need, greater staffing within the DOT, but it is a land use issue, and it is an emergency where we've got a great thing, but we need to make sure it's done right. And to the extent that DOT is a city agency that's given large oversight of it, I think the land use committee does have an interest in making sure that this use of our land is done properly, and that there's the proper regulation and oversight to make sure that that we keep this good thing and make it even better.
So I would ask, definitely it would be better for us to comment more on this after our meeting next month. Roberta, can you give us a time frame again for when we need to, or you've disappeared, Roberta?
I'm sorry, I'm back.
Oh, just a time frame on when you need something from us. Is it, August or September, or is it July?
It's July. I sent everybody the sheets that we've come up with. We want to vote at the, we want your information in July. The Budget and Finance Committee is going to work during the month of August to create the DNS. We are going to have a public hearing sometime in September prior to the steering committee meeting. At the steering committee meeting, we will vote on the priorities, the budget priorities, both capital and expense, and they will be voted on at this October full board meeting. The DNS will be created in August and possibly updated in September, because some of the hearings with the OMB and other city agencies take place in September, but everything will be completed by the October full board meeting. So this year is different than previous years. And we really want every committee to have all their information in place. But if they don't, the budget committee will produce whatever is being produced.
All right, so what I would suggest is to the committee members that they send Richard and I, any bullet points on, thinking about this further and reading through previous or other community board district needs. And we'll try to put together a draft summary and distribute it by July's meeting. But I think on this point, we really need to have the joint meeting to finalize what the community board's ultimate recommendation is, and as it relates to the budget. And that probably will happen internally, within the community board sometime in August or something, where the details are finalized. But I do think this is an issue that land use would be behind.
And you're all welcome, of course, to come to our budget and strategy meetings in August.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
Good. So I think we're at a point where somebody will have to make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Great.
I oppose.
Hold on, somebody said wait.
Somebody
I said that's great. It's Michelle. Sorry.
Oh, all right. Sorry. All right, all those in favor of adjourning,
Aye.
signify by leaving the meeting.
I oppose.
And did we figure out what the problem was at 6 o'clock? Because I know that we were supposed
Mark
to.
wasn't at his computer.
Oh, sorry, Mark. Didn't mean to nail it on you.
No, Jeanette, I was trying to open it up, but I was having technical difficulties with my internet provider.
Okay.
So I had asked Mark to assist. Okay, but it wasn't an issue of delay. It was an issue of technology. Thank you.
No problem. Apologies to everybody who was fiddling between 6 and 6:30 trying to get on as I.
Yeah,
All
sorry.
right.
I was not at my desk. I confess.
That's a rare.
And the reason you weren't was because you didn't know until Michelle told you that you were going to have to captain the meeting.
And,
Yes.
and you're not a fiddler anyway.
Well, I was
You're-
fiddling with political candidates, but anyway, that's another story.
All right, well, thanks very much, everybody.
And good night.
And
Good night,
we'll see
everyone.
you in early July and then in July.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
What would be great if we could have an in-person meeting in July, but I don't, maybe it's a little soon.
There was actually discussion of that at the test and trace meeting today. Michelle probably has more details, but we are not subject to the mandatory return yet. And there's still an open issue about protocols for cleaning spaces and us not having a budget to do that. In fact, they cut our budget. So
Or meetings have to be in Central Park or something.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
We have to provide public safety.
We could meet at the carousel.
Mm-hmm.
That's not Community Board 7, is it?
And I'm afraid we'll go round and round and never get anywhere.
that's
We're good at that.
Very fitting.
All right, folks.
Ready?
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Have a good night, everyone. Be
Michelle,
well.
nice meeting you.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Nice meeting